G'day and welcome to Larrikin Australis, the podcast. My name's Cavey, which is short for caveman. We're going to get into that nickname throughout the series. You see, I'm a bit of an Australian larrikin, a species that is rapidly approaching endangered status. I'm writing a book. It's called How Not to Become a Millionaire, an incomplete guide. This podcast is to test the waters, to give these true life stories some air. This podcast is to test the waters, to give these true life experiences that have come from working on all 7 continents some air, some life, to see if they're going to end up in the book or not. It's about taking a break from all of the doom and the gloom, and how the world has a little bit of shit on it at the moment. A platform to yak about adventure, laughter, fun and utter bloody nonsense. See, I'm a bit of an adventurer turned performer, comedian, and these are the stories from my life as a larrikin. Join in, kick back, and let's enjoy not taking ourselves too seriously. G'day. All right, here we go. First story, kicker in the guts. Many years ago, I was about 21, I suppose, and I'd lost my job, and I thought, righto, what am I going to do? I thought, you know what, I might duck up to Queensland, have a bit of a look up there, see what's happening up there for a couple of weeks. And when I come back, I was thinking about moving in with the girlfriend that I had at the time. Anyway, I catch up with a mate. He takes me out to Ballarat, out to the Avenue of Honour. DG's name is. He drops me out at the Avenue of Honour, which is a whole tree-lined street outside of the city limits there of Ballarat. And basically, and those trees are there to remember the fallen heroes from World War One and World War Two. He drops me off there. I've got a bag. And in the bag, I've got a change of clothes. Let's see, I had a fork, a spoon, and a bloody big hunting knife. I had a sleeping bag, a tarp, no idea, no plan, and no money. I put my thumb out and I hitchhiked. End up in Adelaide a couple of days later. And while I'm sitting on a park bench in Adelaide, I meet this homeless fella. And we decide that between us, we can chip in enough money to buy a goon bag. Or for those of you who are unaware, it's a 4-litre box of wine. And we proceed to sit down on a park bench. Bloody good park bench it was. That was my planned sleeping area for the night. Having a chat to this bloke though, and he said to me, mate, I'm going to teach you a few things about living on the street. So what we did, go to the bin, get out some newspaper, stuff it down the inside of the clothes. It helps insulate you against the cold of night. We sat down there, we drank the 4 litres of wine between us, and I woke up not on the park bench that I'd decided to sleep on the night before. My mate, he'd nabbed it. Sneaky old bugger. We wake up a little bit dusty. He said, I'll tell you what, let's go and get ourselves a little bit of tucker. You know, you need to eat, even if you are living on the streets. So we're walking along the road, excuse me. So we're walking along the road and we see the bread van. He said, righto, mate, we're going to knock off a loaf of bread from the bread van. He was very, very poignant in saying you only steal what you need to survive. You do not take the mickey out of this situation, which I thought was bloody lovely. It really was. So we knock off a loaf of bread. Around the corner we go and we see the milk delivery bloke. So we knock off a litre of milk from the milk delivery bloke. And that was my first lesson of living on the streets. And believe it or not, those few basics really helped me out from a life in the future of living on the streets, living under bridges. Bridges are surprisingly warm and dry to sleep on, unless the water rises, and then you're fucked. But it held me in good stead. It did. It held me in good stead. So anyway, I managed to get myself out to Port Augusta. Now, Port Augusta is in South Australia, and the Stuart Highway runs up to the north and up into Darwin, and the Air Highway runs out to Perth. Now, you might have heard earlier, I said I was heading for Queensland. Clearly, South Australia is not on the way to Queensland. Anyway, there I am, Port Augusta, and I'm at the turn-off wondering, do I go north, do I go west? I tossed a coin. It came up tails. Had it come up heads, I would have tried to hitchhike up through the centre of Australia and onto Darwin. Came up tails, so I decided I'll go west. And west I went. And I got picked up by a bloke in a valiant ute called Ned Kelly. Now, Ned Kelly, for those of you who don't know Australian history, Ned Kelly was a bushranger. He was a highwayman. He was a bloke who robbed people. And he's got a really interesting story, Ned Kelly, revered in Australia, and has a really, really cool background story. Anyway, this bloke who's driving the valiant ute, he pulls over, goes, "G'day, mate, where are you going?" I said, "I don't really know," because I didn't. Anyway, he goes, "Right, well, clearly you go on west, let's go." Throws my bag in the back of the ute. But as he's heading to the back of the ute, he goes, look, rolls up his sleeve and goes, "G'day, mate. My name is Ned Kelly. Look, I've got it tattooed on my arm, Ned Kelly, like the famous bushranger. Let's go." We jump in this beaten up, blue piece of shit valiant ute, and we take off west, heading towards Perth. As we're driving along in the first couple of minutes, he's giving me a bit of background about himself, how he's wanted in Queensland. He had a warrant for himself in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, and now he was looking for a new life in Western Australia. I'm 21. I'm wet behind the ears. I'm thinking, what have I got myself into here? Anyway, we come across a roadhouse. Anyway, we pull up to a roadhouse, a couple of hundred k's away. We pull in. He fuels up and comes back with a dozen stubbies of beer. We get back into the ute, and he goes, "Quick, mate, you got to drink these as quick as possible because they'll get too bloody hot." So there we are, sculling stubbies. He's on the run from Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. He's drink driving. We're sculling stubbies before they get too hot, and we are heading west, flat out, with the most hardcore thrash metal music blasting through the speakers of the valiant ute that's front end was held together with fencing wire at a top speed of 80 kilometres per hour. We spent a couple of days going across the Nullarbor. The Nullarbor is a treeless plain that runs across the bottom part of Australia. It's about 146 kilometres, I think it is, of dead straight road at one point, the second longest straight road in the world. And Nullarbor is Latin for no trees. And I think the Aboriginal word is Undiri, which means waterless. So it's a pretty sparse plain heading across the Nullarbor. It's an amazing country. If you ever get the chance to go across the Nullarbor and head out to Perth from the east coast of Australia, definitely do it. It really is just an amazing country. One of the things that a lot of people don't realise, and I didn't at the time, is that it is also a runway for the Royal Flying Doctor Service. So as you're heading across the Nullarbor, you see an area and it's got "Be aware, Royal Flying Doctor planes may land here." The Royal Flying Doctor Service, that's in case you get in the shit out in the bush. They can fly in and doctor you up and take you to the hospital. No shit. The highway is the landing strip. Anyway, old Ned Kelly and I, he was a very what's the word? Paranoid. Very paranoid was Ned Kelly. Every time we had to sleep at night, I'd sleep over here, warning him that I had a very big knife. Oh, and a hatchet, actually, I remember taking as well. Had a hatchet and a very big knife, and he said, don't come near me because I'll shoot you. So this is quite comforting as I'm going to sleep. We spend, I don't know how many days heading west, and we get to a town on the South Australian side near the border of Western Australia, a roadhouse there just before we get to a town called Eucla. Now, Eucla is a town at the time of not very many people. There was approximately 20 police officers stationed there, according to Ned Kelly, who would be making sure that no contraband was coming across the borders. As I said, according to Ned Kelly, I don't know. We spent 10 hours in the roadhouse on a Sunday drinking beer on the South Australian side of the border, and we were going to cross into Western Australia at around about 6 p.m. on Sunday. Why? Well, it's very bloody simple. According to Ned Kelly, all of the police would have their roast lamb dinner on a Sunday night at 6 p.m. at the police station. Therefore, nobody was patrolling the road, which theoretically allowed him to get through without being busted due to all of the warrants in all of the other states. All right, it was his shout. I was happy to drink beer and wait for him to say, let's go. Anyway, we end up leaving, no problem getting through Eucla. Border was all good. We get to Kalgoorlie many, many hours later, and by now, his paranoia had become extreme. He was worried about so much stuff. He's worried that I was going to dob him in, that I was going to lag him, that I don't know what he was expecting. We get into Kalgoorlie at night and he goes, right, get out. Just get out. There's your bag. Go. And takes off into the darkness. Here I am, standing at 2 a.m. in Kalgoorlie, a massive mining town in Western Australia, or a mining town that has one of the world's biggest open cut gold mines, thinking, what am I going to do? So I headed for the nearest church. I unrolled my sleeping bag, my tarp. I just about to get myself settled and have a nap. And the pastor or the head of the church, or I don't know, what are they, a vicar? I don't know. Anyway, whatever you call it. I don't know what you call them. But he comes out. Apparently I've made too much noise and woken him up. And he said to me, you cannot stay here, mate. These are church grounds. And I said to him, mate, I've just got into town. I want somewhere to sleep, somewhere that is reasonably safe, and somewhere that is somewhat hospitable. And I'm thinking the church might be it. Now, how's this for church values? He said, mate, I don't want people like you here. You get out of here before I call the police. And I thought, how very Christian of you, young man. So there you go. I've landed in Kalgoorlie, led there by a bloke whose name matched a great Australian bushranger, to be met by a vicar who kicked me out because I was homeless, I had no money and no food. Lovely bloke. There you go. This isn't actually just picking about Christian values and Christianity. It's just statement of fact. Anyway, probably about a week later, I managed to hitchhike into Perth and found myself a job selling encyclopedias door to door. That story is for another time. Hope you've enjoyed the first episode of Larrikin Australis. As you see, I'm in my shed here. Right, and a lot of people will say it's a man cave. No, it is not. This is a shed. It is bloody cold here in Melbourne and Victoria. That is why I am rugged up. But a man cave, let's talk about a man cave. A man cave, in my experience, is an indoor room that has seating ready, cinematic type of an experience there for an indoor cinema that may have an ashtray in the corner and a beer sign somewhere. The realism is most Australian blokes live in sheds, not man caves. Let me make that point very clear. This is a shed, not a man cave. Anyway, I forget where I were. We've got some of the neighbours out there making a little bit of noise. But yeah, I want to thank you for popping in and checking out Larrikin Australis. These are the stories, as I said, that fair dinkum, they really happened. So tune in next time. I don't even know what the handle is. This is the first time we've filmed it. We haven't even worked out where I don't know the podcast. I'm just the bloke telling the story. There's other people who know how to make this work. See you next time. So we'd like to thank our lighting engineer, the higher being. The sound was as you heard it. Our director was drunk, the audio sheeny, and the cameraman bloody dodgy.
Just okay, one big one. Do it in front of your face. Let's just make sure I can see you in that one. Good, good. Okay, we're recording. You can go whenever you want.
G'day and welcome to Larrikin Australis, the podcast. My name is Cavey, which is short for caveman, and this is a podcast about me. I'm a bit of an Australian larrikin. Larrikin, if you're not sure what that is, look it up in the Oxford English Dictionary. But larrikins of Australia, they are a species that is rapidly approaching endangered status. You see, I'm writing a book, and the book's title is How Not to Become a Millionaire, an Incomplete Guide. The podcast is to test the waters, to give these true life experiences that have come from working on all 7 continents some air, some life, to see if they're going to end up in the book or not. It's about taking a break from the doom, the gloom, and how the world seems to have a little bit of poo on it at the moment. It's a platform to yak about adventure, laughter, fun, and bloody nonsense. I'm a bit of an adventurer, turned performer, comedian, and these are the stories from my life as a larrikin. So join in, kick back, and let's enjoy not taking ourselves too seriously. G'day and welcome to Larrikin Australis, the podcast. My name is Cavey, which is short for caveman, and I'm a bit of an Australian larrikin, which is a species that is rapidly approaching endangered status. If you're not sure what a larrikin is, look up the Oxford English Dictionary and adapt it somewhat. It's made some changes over the years. You see, I'm writing a book. It's called How Not to Become a Millionaire, an Incomplete Guide. This podcast is to test the waters, to give these true life experiences that come from working on all 7 continents some air, some life, to see if they're going to end up in the book or not. It's about taking a break from the doom, from the gloom, and how the world seems to have a little bit of poo on it at the moment. A platform to yak about adventure, laughter, fun, and nonsense. See, I'm a bit of an adventurer, turned performer and comedian. And these are some of the stories from my life of larrikinism. Join in, kick back, and let's enjoy not taking ourselves too seriously.